What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. We're coming off our best week of the season. Honestly, perhaps the best week we've ever had. 14-6 overall. We had a better record than that in week 2 and week 3 last season, but we hit on that 24x. That was very big. I know a lot of you tailed that, and so I'm speaking to all of you when I say this. Do not overextend yourself and blow that win. It is so easy to see extra money in your account, start putting more on each pick every week, and lose it all very quickly. So either cash some of it out or trust yourself enough to not change how you're going to play. Given how we started the season, you're set up very well to finish profitable, but that all goes out the window if you start thinking you're way better than you are, putting more on each pick, have a few bad weeks, and be like, oh no, how did I lose all of that in a matter of a couple of weeks? So with that out of the way, who do we like this week? If you've been following my channel for a while now, then it should come as no surprise the game that I want to stack up. It's not that we stack up every single high total game. We're not attacking the Commanders at Ravens game because while the total is also massive, we're leaving that one alone because it's difficult for those two teams in particular to at times isolate what the best plays are, especially on a team like Baltimore. They have a number of different players they can hit. They can win in a number of different ways. So even if the game ends up with a 54, 55 point total, we might still be completely wrong as to how it got to that point. But this Lions at Cowboys game is the most obvious spot in the world for ceiling. And if it hits, then we know with a pretty high level of certainty exactly who is going off. Detroit has gained the third most yards per game this season. They have the third most yards per pass play. They are 8th in pass EPA, 3rd in rush EPA, and they're coming off of their bye. They are an awesome offense, and they now have time to prepare. They're taking on a Dallas defense that used to be elite in years past, but they're missing some key players. They've played much worse this season. They've given up the 11th most yards per pass play and somehow rank dead last in the league, 32nd out of 32 teams in EPA per rush allowed. This is a spot where a very movable force has time to prepare against a very movable object. Okay, so it's not going to look pretty for Dallas this weekend. On the flip side, it's not like the Detroit defense has been lights out. They do have a very strong run defense like they do historically. They are a team that they had a little bit of a stretch where they were like the worst in the league, but for most of the recent past, they've been a very good run defense and a very poor pass defense. That's the case this season, giving up the 4th fewest rushing yards per game, but they rank 28th in quarterback pressure rate, and they're allowing the 6th most passing yards per game. I have Detroit graded out as the number 1 matchup for opposing wide receiver targets and the number 2 matchup for yards per reception to tight ends. It's not like their defense is complete trash, because they're definitely not. It's just that they play such good run defense and their offense is so good that teams know they can't stick with the ground game or else they're going to lose. Detroit also plays the 4th most man coverage in the NFL. That's not good news against Dallas. Jake Ferguson leads all tight ends with a 26% target rate versus man coverage. CeeDee Lamb, an unbelievable 4.53 yards per route run versus man. That's compared to 1.4 yards per route run versus zone. There's no Brandon Cooks. They're playing at home. We know Detroit is going to score points. I mean, these two set up exceptionally well this week. On Detroit, Dallas plays the 8th most zone coverage in the NFL, including the 5th most single high in the league. Amon-Ra St. Brown gained 61% more yards per route run versus zone coverage last season compared to man. And while it's only 29% this season, he still has an insane 32% target rate versus zone coverage. Any way you slice it, Detroit plays a ton of man. Lamb, Ferguson, great versus man. Dallas plays a ton of zone. Amon-Ra St. Brown, amazing versus zone. We are pretty confident if this game goes off, and it is the highest total game of the entire season so far, so it's pretty likely to go off. That's where the production is going to flow through. So highest confidence picks in this game are CeeDee Lamb, higher than 82.5 receiving yards, Amon-Ra St. Brown, higher than 75.5 receiving yards, and Jake Ferguson, higher than 49.5 receiving yards. Now, if you want to make it bigger and you want to go for a full 5-man, I would add on Jameson Williams, higher than 51.5 total yards, so counting rushing and receiving, and then Jared Goff, higher than 247.5 passing yards. Reason being, if you have St. Brown hitting, the other player that's likely to push this game and really push the Dallas side into playing faster and playing more aggressively and throwing the ball more would be, obviously, Jameson Williams hitting on a deep ball. And if that were to happen, he's also probably going to bring Goff with him. Now, the unfortunate part is Underdog knows this. Underdog knows this is super correlated, and if those guys hit, the other pieces are going to hit, and so they can't give you the 20x like they used to do. They're only giving like 12 or 13x if all 5 of those hit. So personally, I wouldn't do that. Again, if you want to, that's what I would do. I personally would instead boost the projections like we did last week. If we think specific players are going off or going way higher in their projection, let's account for that, right? Let's get some extra payoff if they actually go way over. So instead of taking the 5 of them at like 12 or 13x, I would say boost the projection on CeeDee Lamb up to higher than 119.5 receiving yards, Amon-Ra St. Brown higher than 99.5 receiving yards, and Jake Ferguson higher than 59.5 receiving yards. It's definitely a lot less likely to hit, but now it comes out at 24x. So it's twice the payoff of the 5, and you only have the 3 of them, and that's before adding any sort of boost. Everyone should have boosts in their lobby. It depends on which one you use, but you can probably get that up to around 30x for the 3 of them hitting. Now, if you want to shoot for the moon and you're like, Nick, 30x isn't enough, I want to go big this week, please do not place a lot on this. But if you want to turn it into a 55x before applying any sort of boost, I'm in love with McConkey this week. I think his projection is too low. If you boost his projection up to higher than 59.5 receiving yards, along with the 3 I mentioned, it is 55x. And same as last week, if all 4 of those hit, I'm giving away $250 to a random person who likes and retweets my post about this pick. It is a completely free way to tail these plays and have a chance at something, even placing 0 money on it. So why not take advantage? Now, I'm fully aware that a 55x pick is certainly unlikely to hit, but we said the same thing last week and someone just won $250, already sent that over. So it's a great way to take advantage while not having to place anything on it. So why Lad? We know he's an elite prospect. We talked a lot about him in the summer, just saying prospect, right? We didn't know for certain that he was going to be incredible, but the underlying metrics in college were very, very strong. He was exceptional on like a per route basis. It was more that it was just like, given the offense, given the players he was playing with, he didn't have a lot of opportunities. And so we were like, okay, if he gets those opportunities as a pro, and he's as good as he was on a per route basis as he was in college, he's going to shred. And then it's like he gets a negative landing spot because technically it's a run-first offense, but he's with Justin Herbert. He's with a quarterback that has hyper-focused on a slot wide receiver in the past, and that wide receiver has done very, very well in fantasy. Then you look at the specifics of this week, and you're like, okay, rookie wide receiver, good prospect coming off bye. That's always something we look for. We look for a little bit more in the second half of the season. Whenever you have second half bye, the rookie wide receiver coming off that, when they're a good prospect, they usually see a very big bump in usage. So that can happen. But then you look at the specifics of this week as well. They're playing Denver, and you're like, oh, that kind of stinks, right? But Pat Surtain does not shadow into the slot. So Pat Surtain is going to be on these outside wide receivers who are not even separating anyways. So we should get a lot of targets funneled to Lad McConkey. And then we say, okay, are they playing a lot of man? Yes, they are, right? We know Lad shreds versus man coverage. Denver tied with the Browns for the most man coverage in the NFL. Lad, as I said, he's 5th best in yards per route run versus man coverage among all players in the NFL right now. He should get peppered with targets this week. He should be open, should be efficient with them, higher than 59.5. I would add that on. So those are my favorites. Let's rapid fire through a few more. If you want some extra things, do not add all of these, please, onto the one we just did. We do not need a 250x, but these are some other plays I really like. Odunze, higher than 38.5 receiving yards at home versus the Jaguars. Jacksonville's allowing the most passing yards per game in the NFL, the highest EPA per pass. Odunze hasn't broken out yet in the way that we've been hoping for, but he's been open really often. Caleb has just missed him at times. They're going to connect on deep balls a little bit more often than they have, and it's really only going to take one, and the matchup is so great this week that I would really be taking that one. Also, like A.J. Brown, higher than 69.5 receiving yards at home versus the Browns. As I noted with Ladd, the Browns running a ton of man coverage. They play the most man coverage in the NFL, again, tied with the Broncos. A.J. Brown versus man coverage, sign me up for that. He's only played one game this season, but we know who A.J. Brown is. He's an elite wide receiver. Last season, he led all wide receivers, or all players actually, with a 40% target rate versus man coverage, and he had by a mile the most yards per route run versus man coverage among Eagles wide receivers. He's going to shred this week. We've got Zach Ertz, higher than 26.5 receiving yards at the Ravens. Going to be scary taking Zach Ertz against the Ravens defense, but Baltimore has a very strong defense, but it's better at stopping wide receivers than tight ends. I actually have them graded out as the number 2 matchup for tight end targets, since, again, they're good against wide receivers. They filter more to the middle of the field. The Commanders are also 6.5-point road underdogs this week. For 90% of games this season, it's going to be closer spread than that. They're going to be winning in games. And when it's remotely close, they're going to run it, right? But this sets up like a spot that is very likely that they will have to throw the ball at some point. They will have to see elevated passing rates. Ertz, second highest target share on the team behind only Terry McLaurin. And while we'd all love to see Benson not used more, he's just not being used right now. I don't think he's a single target on the season. It is Ertz that's the one out there running routes. So I've got more picks on the website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. And make sure you're taking advantage of the promo on X. All you have to do is like and retweet the post about this week's picks. And if it hits, just like it did last week, I will send $250 to a random person. So you can win even without placing any money on it. If you do want to tail, though, which is fun to do, I encourage you all to tail. Do it on Underdog. They're giving away a ton of boosts every single week. And if you sign up with my promo code FFA, you'll not only get those boosts, you can get a deposit bonus up to $1,000. And everyone else is going to give you that, right? With their promos, everyone's going to give you these boosts. Everyone's going to give you this deposit bonus. But if you use my promo, you can access my weekly rankings, weekly projections, my picks every week earlier than the video comes out, so you can get better lines in it. And then also weekly positional reports. I think those are very valuable, not only for doing things like this, doing Underdog, but also for redraft leagues, for fantasy football leagues in general. You can get that free for the rest of the season. Best deal in the industry. Why not take advantage? So good luck to everyone this weekend, both on Underdog and in your fantasy matchups. That'll do it for this one. I'll see you all in week 7.